Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with InsideTheU. Thanks for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to talk about the three Miami Hurricanes that I'm most looking forward to watching play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl against Iowa State. As Miami searches for that 11th win, that would be a big accomplishment, especially how the season ended there, not being able to get into the ACC championship game or the college football playoffs. But 11-win season would certainly be an accomplishment. It's not been done since 2003, which was actually my first year covering this program. And Iowa State also looking forward to trying to get their 11th win. You know, they lost in the Big 12 championship game. They come in 10-3 in this game, and they're looking to build on their year as well, as they also had some disappointment at the end of the year. But overall, good season for both of these programs. And I think one more win would certainly give these programs a big boost, especially Miami. Again, the way it ended, losing 2 of 3, how they played against Syracuse. And then also, they've not done well in bowl games. 1-12 in the last 13 games. Since that 2006 win, their last bowl game was actually in Orlando in 2016. So here we go. The three players I'm most looking forward to watching play in this game. I want to start with Jojo Trader. And look, I'm not expecting Miami to have their full slate of their regular receivers to play in this game. I do think Jacoby George will play in the game. He was seen in the videos this week leading up to the game, but I'm not expecting Xavier Restrepo or Sam Brown to play in the game. And then obviously Isaiah Horton has moved on. So that leaves an opportunity for Jojo Trader. And he was a guy I was really excited about at the high school level. You've heard me talk about Jojo quite a bit. And I think this is a great opportunity to be able to get elevated in a game like this in his freshman year. It kind of ended on a positive note. He's not been a big contributor to the team this year. He's only played in 6 games. He has 3 catches for 30 yards, just 1 reception since September. So certainly he's looking to have a big game to kind of really vault himself into a big breakout sophomore season. That's what he's looking to do. And I think in this game, it would be big for him to really go into the offseason with some positive momentum. And I think he's capable of doing that. Even though he hasn't been a big contributor, I think his pairing with Cam Ward in this game would be big. And I think that he can really benefit from just this one singular game, you know, in comparison to how the season has gone. He's a guy with good long speed. He can win one-on-one matchups, which I think Cam Ward really appreciates and really expects from his wide receivers. We saw that all year long, and he's going to throw the ball either on intermediate routes, he'll go deep, even in some short passes too. And I think Jojo can do all 3 of those things. He's certainly capable of doing it. And I think it would be big for him, not just in this game because it's the last game, but because of the opponent. Iowa State comes into the game second in the conference in pass efficiency defense, and they're in the Big 12, and actually the leaders in the Big 12 in pass defense, only giving up 161 passing yards a game, 15 touchdown passes allowed to 14 interceptions. That really just shows kind of the efficiency that they've been working with all year long. So against a good pass defense like Iowa State, and I think Jojo would certainly, it would just really benefit him. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. Again, it's been disappointing not to see him in there, but you can't argue that he should have been in there. And I would have liked to have seen him play, but because of all the success that these other 4 guys with, and Miami was rolling out primarily 4 wide receivers all year long, and Cam put up historic numbers, and Miami won a bunch of games. So yes, I would have liked to have seen Jojo throughout the year, like a lot of people, but I understand it. But this is an opportunity, I feel, that he can make a real big difference into his offseason, and I really think it could really help him into next year and really solidify himself as one of these guys to be counted on next year that can be a lead guy in just this one game. I think it could be that meaningful for him. So the second guy that I'm most looking forward to watching in the bowl game here, and I'm going to flip it to the defensive side of the ball, and this name might surprise you a little bit, but it's Rueben Bain. And it's because I'm expecting him to have a big year next year. And I think this game, like Jojo, different circumstances in terms of their careers, their playing experience, and all of that. But I think this year for Rueben has been very difficult for him, and he's not been as productive as he was a year ago. Look, he got injured in the first game against Florida, missed 4 games, and then came back to play the next 7 there. So he's played 8 games total. You know, briefly played there in the Florida game, but his totals just aren't matching up to what they were a year ago. And I do know from talking to players over the years that even when you come back from injury, and even if you're playing a lot of the snaps, sometimes it's hard to just kind of get really back into it with the midseason. You know, when you get injured, during a season. And I think that's what we saw with Rueben. We didn't see him at his best. Again, his numbers weren't as good as they were a year ago. So this year, 22 total tackles, 5.5 for a loss, and then the 3.5 sacks. So if you kind of, even if you look at the totality of last year, when he played all 13 games, the numbers just don't add up, even if you were to play the same amount of games. But 44 tackles last year, 12.5 for loss, the 7.5 sacks, and then also something he did last year that he hasn't done yet this year. He had 3 forced fumbles, and he hasn't had one yet this year. So the numbers, the counting numbers certainly aren't as good this year, but also the Pro Football Focus grades just aren't as good either. Last year he was sitting around for the season around 82, this year around 78, and really this year he only had one game over 80. So, last year he had those big 90 graded games, and that just shows the impact that he had a year ago. And I think Ruben's got a great chance. I think this is a great opportunity for him. He's got a little bit of rest from that last game against Syracuse there. And maybe he'll come out more fresh in this game. And again, it's because of the expectations I have for Rueben Bain. Again, I said coming into the year, and I still believe this, and I still believe it for next year. I think he certainly could be one of, if not the best defensive player in the ACC, but he has to prove it week in and week out, and he didn't do that this year. But this is an opportunity, once again, like Jojo, against a quality opponent, and he's going to have an opportunity to kind of go after it. Now, Iowa State doesn't give up a lot of sacks, but it's not just about sacks with Rueben. They've got to play better on defense. And I think it starts with those guys up front, and the better players. And Ruben's one of those guys. So I'm really curious. I'm really curious how he's going to perform, how he does, and also just his impact, not just the impactful plays, the counting stats, as I mentioned earlier, but also just the way he's kind of dictating the defensive line and really making things difficult for the offensive line for Iowa State, as well as their running game and Rocco back there at quarterback. Just being a very disruptive player, kind of get them out of rhythm, which you can do as a defensive lineman, even if you're not getting the tackles, tackles for loss, the sacks, and the forced fumbles. So I'll be looking for him to have a big game. And again, they need him to play well in this game, but also I think Rueben heading into year 3 next year, kind of a surprise. It just goes fast with these guys. But year 3, a draft year for Rueben Bain next year, and I think just a real strong offseason would be good for him. Get back healthy, get his body the way he wants it going into a season, and then obviously, hopefully, a healthy year next year. But again, I think it'll be big for him to play well in this game, not just for this game, but also for next year as well. So the final player that I'm most looking forward to watching play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl is going back to the offensive side of the ball. And it's not at running back or offensive line, although I think people will pick some of those players. I'm actually going to go back at wide receiver, and that's Ray Joseph. Certainly another guy like Jojo, a young player, hasn't played a lot this year in terms of the offensive sets at wide receiver. Look, he's played in all 12 games so far. He's been the primary punt returner. He's actually 8th in the conference in punt returns. I'd like to see him have a big punt return, 7.3 yards per return so far this year. But catching the ball, that's where I want to see him excel. Again, I'm not expecting Miami to have their full slate of guys, their main top guys that they've had at wide receiver in this game. And I think Ray Joseph is a guy to watch in this game. I think he could get a lot of opportunities. He's only had 4 catches this year for 57 yards. Last year, just the 6 receptions. So he's looking to make a big impact in this game. And I still believe in his skills and his skill set and his ability to make plays. And hopefully he understands the opportunity he has ahead of him. And I think with a guy like him, he just has to trust his instincts. He trusts the work that he's put in. He's always been noted as a hard worker since he's been at Miami. Just really trust that he's really, ready to take that next step and ready for this opportunity. And like Jojo, he's not been involved of late. He has no catches since September. So I'm curious to see how he performs. Again, he's a guy I still believe in and think can really impact the football team and really impact the offense and make plays. I like how the potential that he still has. I still believe in him as a player, but at some point, certainly with a lot of young players, at some point you've got to produce when you get opportunities. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. And again, we'll see how it goes and see kind of how things go moving forward with Ray. But I do expect him to play in this game, and I expect him to have a good role. And I think he can, do well with Cam at quarterback and really help him there. I think that'll be the big thing I'll be watching for in general. Obviously, two of the guys I mentioned are the young wide receivers, so I'm curious to see how they do, even though Cam won't be back another year. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways you can go with this. And maybe you would go with Emory Williams. I think a lot of people are curious about him. Maybe seeing if he can get some playing time in this game, which I do think is on the table. Okay, so that's going to wrap everything up for me. Those are the three players. Again, you could go a bunch of different ways with this, offensively and defensively. But bottom line is, I'm looking forward to watching this game. I'm looking forward to seeing how this team plays in a bowl game. Will they be ready? Will they do all the things necessary to win the game? I think the big X factor with this one to pay attention to, which I know when you do these breakdowns with games, you look at offensively and defensively, running, passing, everything like that, and even the red zone, third down. Those are the key things when you evaluate games. But big thing to watch for that could come into play in this game, Miami's 121st in penalties in the country this year. Iowa State, conversely, leads the country. They're the least penalized team in the country. Miami has to show discipline in a game like this to come away with the win, and hopefully they do so. It's been an issue at times this year. We'll see how they do in this game. Hopefully everybody that plays is focused. Looking forward to being there at Camping World Stadium. I always enjoy being there and looking forward to seeing this bowl game. Again, I want to thank everybody for your support. Definitely drop in the comments below. I always like hearing what you have to say about this team. But hopefully everybody's enjoying the holiday season and enjoys the game this weekend. So thanks for watching. Appreciate your support and take care.